yesterday majority of companies which go bankrupt. Reason क्या होता? So many companies actually fail. If you see 15 years back जो companies थे, they were doing very well. Today a lot of those companies are not doing well. Okay, maybe they have delisted. The reason is bankruptcy because they took a lot of loan and they weren't able to repay. Today also guys, companies that are extremely debt ridden, okay, might shut down. तो बहुत सिंपल, आप solvency ratio चेक कर लो ना. अगर solvency ratio चेक कर लिया, you'll be able to avoid companies being extremely debt ridden. Yes, so that you don't lose a lot of money. Markets का rule क्या? You win big, you win small, you lose small. Just avoid losing big. If you just avoid losing big money, you'll be able to sail through the markets. If let's say there's a company has taken loans from bank. Now if a company wants to grow, it'll have to take borrowings, it'll have to take loans from banks. बैंक्स की ना थोड़ी कोवेनेंट्स होते हैं. ओके, बैंक्स क्या बोलता है? आई एम गिविंग यू 50 crore का क्रेडिट लाइन, यू कैन कीप यूजिंग इट व्हेनेवर यू वांट इन योर डे टू डे बिजनेस. बट अगर आपका करंट रेशियो 1.2 से गिर गया, ओके, आई एम टेकिंग 1.2 एज एन एग्जांपल, 1.2 से द करंट रेशियो फॉल्स, देन यू विल हैव टू गिव द 50 crores immediately back. We don't want to give loan, the credit line will expire. तो at every given point of time अगर इन्वेस्टर, you have to make sure कि ये जो बेसलाइन जो भी हो सकता है, ओके, उससे कभी भी रेशियो शुडंट फॉल, और इस कंपनी विल हैव टू पैनिक, stop their operations and repay money to bank. A short disclaimer before we start with the discussion that everything that we'll discuss is just for educational purposes. It's not a buy or sell recommendation. So what's our discussion for today? Ratio is the secret language of business. Okay. What is this about? We did one part of this in the last session. Yes, and let's do the other part now. Index, guys, why ratios matter. We discussed why ratios matter. Correct. हमने ये discuss कर दिया why ratios matter. List of ratios में we discussed working capital efficiency ratios in the last session. We'll try covering the other parts in today's session. Guys, बहुत interesting है. The best part about this is not an academic discussion wherein we'll be learning formulas or something like that. We just want to understand how do you use these ratios practically to analyze companies. Yes, that's completely our approach. So let's find out how to do this. We'll go super slow. If you guys have any queries, any silliest of doubts, you can please feel free to ask. Okay, please don't hesitate. Guys, there are 3 ratios on a screen: fixed asset turnover, working capital turnover, and total asset turnover. As I told you, the formulas don't matter much. In real life, you will get all these ratios calculated directly. So mugging up the formula is not required. You can go through the formula to understand the concept intuitively. So, sir, what is fixed asset turnover? Fixed asset turnover क्या होता है? What is fixed asset turnover? If the answer of fixed asset turnover is 3x, what does it mean? It means 1 rupee of fixed asset is able to generate 3 rupees of turnover sales. Okay, is this clear? Fixed asset turnover 3 times मतलब क्या होता है? You're able to generate 3 rupees of sales with 1 rupee of fixed asset. So obviously you want the number to be higher number चाहिए. Fixed asset turnover, it represents efficiency. It represents efficiency of the company. Correct? The ideal or the rule of thumb over here, the ideal or the rule of thumb is, if it is a capital light business, it will be more than 3. Capital intensive है, they have too many fixed assets. Correct? So obviously it will be 1 to 2 times. New capex temporarily depresses this. Obviously अगर company ने बहुत नया capital expenditure किया, the company has done, so initially the new capex would not have generated new sales. It is yet to convert it into sales. So temporarily the number might be depressed. When to use it? To measure capacity utilization, asset sweating, and post capex ramp up. Track this alongside EBIT margins. High turns can offset lower margins, while low turns require premium margins. Absolutely, we have studied this in DuPont. I've actually explained DuPont only. Okay, and nuances and common pitfalls. Use net PPE and revaluations or impairments can distort it. So use multi-year average opening closing का average ले लो. In short, I hope people understood fixed asset turnover. I'll make it thoda more practical so you guys, we understand this. See guys, fixed asset turnover. Now let's say, how does this practically translate? See, there are 2 companies, X Limited and Y Limited. There are 2 companies. X Limited and Y Limited, there are 2 companies. Okay, both have a revenue and a profit of 10,000 crores and a profit of, let's say, 2,000 crores. This is the data that we have on hand. Yes, that these are the two companies. ये दो कंपनी है guys, X Limited and Y Limited. Revenue same, business model same, revenue same, profit same. What would we select, guys? If we want to invest our money into some company, which company would we select? X Limited or Y Limited? Sir, they seem the same, right? If the business model is same, the revenue is same, the profit is same, what will we select? Both are the same. But if I tell you fixed assets, let's say here it's 10,000 crores and here it's 5,000 crores. So now understand, guys, which company is better? I want you to answer. Which company is a better company?
X Limited.
X
Why?
Limited.
No, you don't have to see which company has more fixed assets. Understand the logic, the thinking should be that in X Limited, 10,000 crore ka assets is required to generate a revenue of 10,000 crores. But same revenue is generated by Y Limited with just 5,000 crore ka assets. So which company is more efficient? Guys, which company is more efficient?
Y Limited.
Y Limited is more efficient. Ideally, from an efficiency standpoint, we should select Y Limited. सबको समझा मैं क्या बता रहा हूँ? Yes. So you have to see, because next year if they want to double their sales, okay, इसको 20,000 crore का fixed asset चाहिए होगा, but this will need only extra 5,000 crores. So the additional money required, etc., will be less than Y Limited. So Y Limited would be able to grow very well because they have cracked the way in which, okay, less assets can generate more revenue. Is this absolutely clear? Yes. People are able to understand fixed asset turnover.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similarly, working capital turnover, exactly the same. If let's say working capital turnover is 5 times, it means 5 rupees of revenue is generated using 1 rupee blocked in working capital. Again, higher the better. We want less money blocked in working capital, helping you generate more revenue. Yes. So what they're saying is higher the better, obviously. We want more revenue to be generated with less money blocked in working capital. Okay, how effectively working capital supports growth? If working capital turnover falls while growth slows, investigate the inventory bloat or lacks matlab lazy collections. Are you able to collect money or not? Are you able to collect money or not? Consider operating working capital, inventory plus trade receivables minus trade for cleaner insight. So बोलते हैं कि cash को निकाल दो. Remove cash from working capital. This in CFA, this is called net working capital. When you take net working capital, you remove cash and immediately assets that you can convert into cash immediately. ठीक है? So working capital turnover, again guys, the logic is same. From an analysis standpoint, आपको क्या समझना है कि कम से कम पैसा, okay, you have to block less money in the working capital and you should be able to generate more revenue. That is the most ideal state. We just took fixed asset, we took working capital, now we'll take total asset turnover. Again, the logic remains the same. Yes, how much assets, using how much assets you're able to generate, how much revenue. Now, retail would have more than 1.5, manufacturing 0.5 to 1.5, utilities less than 5. Correct? Use margins to profile strategy. You will understand कि company का strategy क्या है. Low margin, high turnover. Guys, which company satisfies this condition? Low margin, high turnover. You know, companies like DMart. DMart, have you heard about Avenue Supermart? DMart, yes. उनका क्या? They will sell at less margin. They won't have a huge profit margin. Yes, but they believe in high turnover. मतलब जल्दी जल्दी बहुत बार बेचते रहेंगे. Correct? Or else there are companies जिसका sales कम होगा. मतलब they sell less, but they sell at a very high margin. Correct? So there are two types of strategies. सस्ता बेच के ज्यादा बेचो या महंगा बेचो कम बेचो. Correct? We now move on to liquidity ratios. Liquidity ratios. Now, what is liquidity? To explain you guys very quickly, liquidity मतलब क्या? Liquidity means how much money. See, you have good number of assets, good amount of assets, but do you have good assets in liquid form? Yes, sometimes. Okay, not all your money should be blocked in long-term assets. You need to have some money in your short-term assets, which you can use to convert into cash whenever requirement is there. Correct? So liquidity ratios का purpose is to check whether you have proper liquid money or not. If you remember in the last session of ratios, we had discussed a case of this company. Guys, कौन सा company हमने discuss किया था? Cox and Kings India. Cox and Kings India का discussion किया था. They couldn't pay the money on commercial paper. Liquidity crisis, and then the company went into bankruptcy. Yes, तो liquidity crisis बहुत एक बड़ा red flag होता है. We need to make sure the company has proper liquidity. So start करें. Current ratio क्या होता है? Current asset minus current liability. Sorry, divided by current liability. Correct? What does it mean? Current ratio का meaning क्या होता है? Short term ability to pay obligations. Yes. If I tell you current ratio is 2, what does it mean? 2 rupees of current assets for every 1 rupee of current liability. Ideal क्या होता है? Manufacturing में 1.25 to 2 times होता है. Retail with rapid turns can operate with less than 1 also. Banks के लिए it's not meaningful at all. यस. बेसलाइन कोवेनेंट चेक्स एंड वेंडर कंफर्ट होना चाहिए. मतलब क्या गाइस समझो. आज इफ लेट्स से देयर इज अ कंपनी हैज टेकन लोन्स फ्रॉम बैंक. नाउ कंपनी टू इफ अ कंपनी वांट्स टू ग्रो विल हैव टू टेक बोरोइंग, दे हैव टू टेक लोन्स फ्रॉम बैंक्स. बैंक्स के ना थोड़े कोवेनेंट्स होते हैं. ओके. बैंक्स क्या बोलता है कि आई एम गिविंग यू एक 50 करोड़ का क्रेडिट लाइन, यू कैन कीप यूजिंग इट व्हेनेवर यू वांट इन अ डे टू डे बिजनेस. बट अगर आपका करंट रेशियो 1.2 से गिर गया, ओके, आई एम टेकिंग 1.2 एज एन एग्जांपल, 1.2 से द करंट रेशियो फॉल्स, then you will have to give the 50 crores immediately back. We don't want to give loan. The credit line will expire. So at every given point of time as an investor you have to make sure कि ये जो baseline जो भी हो सकता है, ओके, उससे कभी भी ratio shouldn't fall, or else company will have to panic, stop their operations and repay money to banks. Yes. So current ratio क्या होता है? Do you have sufficient money in your current assets or not? एक बहुत अच्छा लाइन लिखा है यहाँ पे, डोंट चेज हाई करंट असेट, हाई करंट रेशियो ब्लाइंडली, द क्वालिटी ऑफ करंट रेशियो, करंट असेट मैटर्स. ये लाइन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है एंड वील डिस्कस दिस इन डिटेल नाउ. प्लीज फोकस. Guys, you don't have to do anything, just tell me, okay, what company would you select to invest? Which is a better company? Please calculate, or rather tell me which is a better company. X Limited or Y Limited, which is a better company? Think and tell me. I want all of you to please answer. See, current ratio, if you calculate, okay, this is 2, this is 1.2, correct? So X Limited seems to have a better current ratio. X Limited seems to have a better current ratio in the simplest way. Now let me give you some additional information. Additional information क्या होगा? Guys, if I tell you X Limited's inventory, this inventory is old. X Limited's inventory is old. मतलब this is not a fast moving good. बहुत पुराना inventory है, they have not been able to sell. Yes, and their receivables is also due. ये जो debtors है, this is due for more than 60 days. 60 days और 90 days से ज़्यादा due है. Okay, the customers are not paying. Even though Y Limited's 1.2 is a smaller number of current ratio, I think Y Limited will be a better company in that case. सबको समझा मैं क्या बता रहा हूँ? Yes. So call the number 2 and 1.2. Obviously, 2 is a better number. X Limited has a better current ratio. But now we have to go beyond the academic part. In real life, you have to check the quality of current assets. I'll again repeat. Guys, please focus. You have to go to the notes to accounts and understand what is the quality of current assets. Current assets का quality भी important है. सिर्फ number देख के you just proceed ahead. That won't be sufficient. If we want to become good equity research analysts, we'll have to go beyond the book. We have to go beyond what is required. अब देखो इन्वेंट्री पुराना इन्वेंट्री है. इफ इट इज एन ओल्ड इन्वेंट्री दे हैव टू राइट इट ऑफ वेरी सून. नेक्स्ट ईयर राइट ऑफ करके उनको दिखाना पड़ेगा. सो दिस 40 हैज एक्चुअली नो वैल्यू. यस, और माइट बी इट माइट हैव अ वैल्यू ऑफ 4 और 5. सिग्निफिकेंट पोर्शन विल हैव टू बी रिटन ऑफ. डेटर्स अगर 60-90 डेज से ज्यादा है, सो द पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ दिस बीइंग कलेक्टेड इज आल्सो वेरी लेस. So you just have 10 rupees and you have to pay 30 rupees. Do you have sufficient current assets to cover your current liabilities? I'm afraid we don't. We don't have sufficient current assets. Correct? In that case, Y Limited is a better company. Even though the current ratio points out that X Limited is a better company, it has a bigger ratio, better ratio, but quality of current assets matter the most. The next ratio is quick ratio and acid test ratio. What we ideally do over here is, yes, we see the ability to cover current liability without selling inventory. Because sometimes inventory is not very liquid, so we remove inventory from the discussion and see other current assets other than inventory are able to cover my current liabilities or not. Cash ratio may we just see my either immediate coverage, okay, of current liability using cash. So is my cash enough to cover my current liabilities? How much is that? Okay. And defensive interval ratio is how many days the firm can operate without new cash inflow. कोई भी नया cash inflow नहीं आया, I don't raise funding, my customer doesn't pay me money, कुछ नहीं हुआ तो how long can I go and run my business without any other help? Quick ratio में sir the sixth point is exclude doubtful receivables for a conservative view. Okay, so every year companies will create a provision. Provision क्या होता है? It's a number that the company estimate that how much money I won't be able to collect from my debtors. मेरे कस्टमर से मैं कितना पैसा कलेक्ट नहीं कर पाऊंगा. Okay, so let's say my debtors is let's say 10,000, or let's say my debtors is 600 crores. This is the money I have to receive from my customers. But the company themselves are saying that we will create a provision of 20 crores. We feel 20 crores we are not going to receive from the customers. Okay. So ideally you should take 580 crores as debtors in the discussion. Don't take 600. So be thoda conservative. Yes, clear? Any other points? Okay. Guys, what I was thinking is, okay, chalo, you understood this, but how do you make this more simpler? So let us make a checklist out of this. Okay. So that you guys, are able to use it practically on companies. Okay. Let's make a checklist quickly. Checklist है क्या? आपको ना रेड फ्लैग्स समझ जाना चाहिए. What are red flags? Okay. In case of inventories. For inventories, red flags क्या होंगे? First, if days of inventory is increasing. If you see quarter on quarter, year on year, yes, if the days of inventory is increasing, days of inventory are the how long it takes for us to sell the products to our customers. Days of inventory बढ़ रहा है. No, you're not able to sell your products. Why is that the case? So you should be थोड़ा सा, cautious. You should then further investigate के why is this happening. Second, if the finished goods का value is increasing, फिनिश गुड्स पाइल अप हो रहा है गाइस, मतलब आप बेच नहीं पा रहे हो, तो व्हाट इज द रीजन? इज इट दैट आपके पास पुराने प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, यू डोंट हैव द लेटेस्ट प्रोडक्ट्स? इज दैट द केस, और इज द कंपटीशन एंटरिंग द मार्केट? व्हाट इज द रीजन? द कंपनी हैज मे बी डन अ रीसेंट inventory write down. If the company has done a recent inventory write down, it means they are writing off the inventory. Why is that the case? Write off क्यों करना पड़ा? क्या रीजन है? Is there some logical explanation? Please check. So these are red flags. Yes, similarly, अगर आपको चाहिए तो रिसीवेबल्स का एक रेड फ्लैग क्या होगा बड़ा? रिसीवेबल का रेड फ्लैग क्या होगा? दैट शुड बी मैक्स 30 days लेट फ्रॉम ड्यू डेट. If you check the receivable aging report, it customer had to pay me money. The customer is late from the due date. The maximum delay should be 30 days. Okay. अगर वो 60 days plus है, so it's not very liquid. मतलब वो पैसा आएगा कि नहीं? We cannot consider it liquid. ठीक है? So if you just keep these few points in mind and now you sit to analyze a company, I guess we'll be a step better than what we were there before. Correct? आपको अगर इजी वर्ड से मीनिंग भी समझना, कैश रेशियो क्या होता है गाइस? What is cash ratio? What can you pay today? What you can pay today? आज कितना पे कर पाओगे इस कैश रेशियो, what you can pay today's cash ratio, and in simple words, defensive interval ratio runway is how long you can last. How long you can last is the defensive interval ratio. Clear as up? Yes, is the whole chart clear to you? Liquidity ratios. Perfect. We'll now move on to solvency. Sir, यार liquidity solvency में difference क्या होता है? Liquidity means do you have sufficient short-term assets to cover your short-term liabilities? Here the discussion is long-term. Solvency मतलब in all your total assets, is this greater than the liability? Yes, then you are solvent. मतलब you are not bankrupt. But if your liability has started increasing and your asset is less, then you might go bankrupt. Insolvency issues. So solvency ratio क्या होता है? These are the ratios that are on screen that we can use to figure out solvency of a company. A lot of ratios, but the meaning is extremely simple, extremely same. आप एक दो समझ लोगे आपको बाकी सारे समझ जाएंगे, बहुत सिंपल है. डेट टू इक्विटी रेशियो, सबसे पहले गाइस समझो कि क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है. गाइस टुडे मेजॉरिटी ऑफ कंपनीज which go bankrupt, रीजन क्या होता है? So many companies actually fail. If you see 15 years back जो companies थे, they were doing very well. Today a lot of those companies are not doing well, or maybe they have delisted. The reason is bankruptcy because they took a lot of loan and they weren't able to repay. Today also guys, companies which are extremely debt ridden, okay, might shut down. तो बहुत सिंपल, आप सॉल्वेंसी रेशियो चेक कर लो ना. अगर सॉल्वेंसी रेशियो चेक कर लिया, यू विल बी एबल टू अवॉइड कंपनीज which are extremely debt ridden. Yes, so that you don't lose a lot of money. मार्केट्स का रूल क्या है? You win big, you win small, you lose small. Just avoid losing big. If you just avoid losing big money, you'll be able to sail through the markets. ओके, तो ये आपका पूरा चार्ट है. ये सॉल्वेंसी समझना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. फर्स्ट इज डेट टू इक्विटी रेशियो, डेट टू कैपिटल, डेट टू असेट, इक्विटी लेवरेज. All these are for balance sheet related items. You take debt, you take equity or balance sheet related items. And then you have something called as interest coverage, fixed charge coverage. Yes, these ratios are income statement related ratios. Correct? You're seeing whether you'll be able to repay your interest, how many times you're able to cover your interest or not. Okay, net debt to EBITDA is also क्या बोलता है, a mixed type of a ratio which is used very very often by a lot of analysts. समझते बहुत सिंपल है. डेट टू इक्विटी क्या होता है? If I tell you debt to equity is 0.8, it means for every 1 rupee of equity, I have 0.8 rupees का debt. Now the rule of thumb is, for people who are not able to see, for rule of thumb is it should be less than 1 for many non-financial cyclicals. For ये मैं आपको समझाता हूँ. Let me explain this in detail. When to use track debt to equity with interest coverage and net debt to EBITDA. Okay, let me explain. मैं इसको बहुत सिंप्लीफाई करके समझाता हूँ so that you guys don't have to worry about the table. Just a second. Out of all the ratios, debt to equity is one of the most important. So focus on this. When you take debt to equity, पहले तो इंक्लूड क्या होता है डेट टू इक्विटी में? डेट में क्या क्या इंक्लूड करेंगे? ऑल इंटरेस्ट बेरिंग डेट. इंटरेस्ट बेरिंग डेट इंक्लूड कर दो. मतलब क्या? एनी डेट, एनी लोन, एनी बोरोइंग जिस पे यू हैव टू पे इंटरेस्ट विल बी इंक्लूडेड इन द न्यूमरेटर. सो गाइस, विल वी इंक्लूड ट्रेड पेबल्स, क्रेडिटर्स इंक्लूड करेंगे? नहीं. इट इज अ लायबिलिटी बट वी डोंट पे इंटरेस्ट ऑन दैट. ऑल इंटरेस्ट बेरिंग डेट, बैंक लोन यस, डिबेंचर्स यस, बॉन्ड्स यस. कस्टमर का एडवांस आ गया, customer advance, unearned revenue, it's a liability but won't be included over here. It's not an interest bearing debt. So debt में ये सारी चीजें इंक्लूड कर दोगे? यस. इक्विटी तो इक्विटी एंड रिजर्व्स इज समथिंग दैट यू विल टेक. अभी डेट टू इक्विटी में आपको समझना क्या? देयर आर थ्री सिचुएशंस. जनरल केसेस, जनरली cyclical companies, yes, like steel, auto, real estate, etc. करेक्ट. तो जनरली cyclical कंपनीज में क्या होगा? यस, अभी देखो भाई, जनरली क्या होना चाहिए, डेट टू इक्विटी एक याद रखना, शुड बी लेस देन 1। आइडियली डेट टू इक्विटी शुड बी लेस देन 1। 1 से कम है तो सेफ है, कोई टेंशन नहीं। 1 से बढ़ गया मतलब डेंजर जोन। तो ये एक एज अ रूल ऑफ थंब आप याद रख सकते हो जनरल कंपनी में। सिक्लिकल कंपनीज में क्या होगा, डेट टू इक्विटी should be much lower than 1, much lower than 1। मतलब 1.8 0.9 भी नहीं होना चाहिए, इट शुड बी समवेयर अराउंड 0.6 0.7 और 0.5 also। It should be much lower than 1। Why? Because cyclical companies, guys, cyclical down cycles में, when the earnings are very down, they won't be able to repay the interest also, so the company might be shut, okay, the company might be forced to bankruptcy or something like that। तो cyclical companies जो होता है, a lot of business cycles, okay, they should be having a lot less debt than other companies। बैंक में आ रही है, वी डोंट हैव टू थिंक अबाउट बैंक्स, यस। फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में ये नॉर्मल से रेशियोज नहीं आता, तो मेजोरिटी रेशियोज वोंट बी हेल्पफुल इन बैंक्स। द थर्ड कैटेगरी इज अ डिफरेंट कैटेगरी, कंपनीज हैविंग long term government contracts, okay, long term government contracts। Now these are few companies which can afford to have a debt to equity greater than 1, yes, can afford to have high debt to equity because cash flows are backed by government, cash flows are backed by government। तो ये अगर आप see this as a analyst also, this is exactly what I keep in mind when I'm doing my debt to equity का check। Exactly this is what I check। तीन चीजें, जनरल केस, cyclical, companies having long term government contracts, yes, ये तीन अगर, so it is not always a blanket rule, कंपनी जिसका debt to equity is 1.8, यू शुड जस्ट शट योर माइंड कि नहीं नहीं कंपनी खराब है। लॉन्ग टर्म गवर्नमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स है तो वैसे कंपनीज टेंड टू टेक हायर डेट टू इक्विटी, दैट इज ओके। लीज, लीज लायबिलिटी क्या होता है, इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल थिंग, बहुत सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट है कि आई हैव टेकन एन असेट ऑन रेंट, भाड़े पे मैंने एक असेट लिया। अर्लियर इट यूज्ड टू बी वॉट एवर मनी आई एम पेइंग एज रेंट, इट यूज्ड टू बी कैटेगराइज्ड एज एन एक्सपेंस। बट आफ्टर द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ दिस IFRS, इंड एस 116 और IFRS 16, व्हाट यू कॉल इट, ये स्टैंडर्ड आने के बाद उन्होंने क्या बोल दिया कि आप लीज को लायबिलिटी में डाल दो, डोंट पुट इट एज एन एक्सपेंस। Earlier, what we used to do, whatever rent lease payment you make, it is your expense in the P&L, that's it। Now they are routing it through liability, that when you take an asset, it is a right of use asset, and the money that is payable, because you are under an obligation to pay lease, so it is a liability for you। तो starting में ही मैंने जब asset ले लिया ना, because I'm obligated to pay lease payment for the next 3 years, 5 years, whatever is my lease term, मैं वो मेरे एक liability में आ जाता है पोर्शन। तो अभी वो भी liability मुझे consider कर देना चाहिए इसको। करेक्ट, यू शुड कंसिडर दिस लीज लायबिलिटी इन डेट, बिकॉज यू आर एसेंशियली पेइंग लीज पेमेंट्स और आप इंटरेस्ट भी पे कर रहे हो उसके साथ, सो इट्स एन इंटरेस्ट बेरिंग डेट। तो ये कंसिडर कर दो यहाँ पे, एंड देन डू योर कैलकुलेशंस। क्लियर? That's exactly what they're saying। Okay, I'll quickly tell you the meaning of these points so that you guys get a quick glance of other ratios as well। Debt to equity हो गया हमारा डिस्कशन। Yes, debt to equity is okay, how much debt do you have per 1 rupee of equity? Debt to capital is same। Okay, if I tell you debt to capital is 40%, मतलब 40% debt is funded, okay, of capital is debt। मतलब 100 रुपए capital में 40 is debt, other obviously 60 is equity। Debt to assets is what? Okay, if it is 30%, debt funds 30% of assets। Simple। So these are, see, it will essentially tell you the same thing। अगर debt to equity बहुत खराब है, बहुत ज्यादा है, so debt to capital भी ज्यादा होगा, debt to asset भी ज्यादा होगा। Generally, okay, they'll always move in tandem, always move together। Yes. So you can read these ratios, all the first four ratios. If you have any queries, you can ask. Yes, they're extremely simple to understand। Okay. इंटरेस्ट कवरेज पे आया हम। ओके, इंटरेस्ट कवरेज बहुत सिंपल है, बहुत फन कॉन्सेप्ट है। इंटरेस्ट कवरेज क्या होगा? यस, आप सेम चीज चेक करो, डेट टू इक्विटी का सेम चीज, you're checking through the interest part। इंटरेस्ट पार्ट से आप सेम चीज चेक करने का ट्राई कर रहे हो। सर मतलब क्या, समझाऊंगा। It's a very simple thing. Okay, interest coverage. इंटरेस्ट कवरेज क्या होगा, कहीं समझो आप. आर यू एबल टू कवर योर इंटरेस्ट और नॉट? EBIT upon interest. If you have to pay interest of 5,000 and your EBIT is, let's say, 20,000, so this becomes 4x, 4 times. मतलब you are able to 4 times cover your interest. Higher the better. This is all obviously always higher the better. ठीक है, जितना भी इंटरेस्ट कवरेज ज्यादा हो सकता है उतना बेटर है. क्लियर गाइस? आई प्रेफर दिस रेशियो ओवर डेट टू इक्विटी, मतलब दोनों साथ में यूज करना चाहिए. डेट टू इक्विटी प्लस इंटरेस्ट कवरेज ICR. If you use this together, you will get the best picture of the solvency of the company. Solvency आपका चेक हो जाएगा. सॉल्वेंसी चेक करने के लिए 2 ratios आर मोर देन सफिशिएंट. एक आपने बैलेंस शीट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देख लिया एंड दूसरा इंटरेस्ट कवरेज रेशियो देख लिया. 2 थिंग्स यू हैव चेक्ड. यू नो कंपनी के पास कितना डेट है, लेवल्स, एंड इज द कंपनी हैविंग द एबिलिटी टू पे इट बैक प्रॉपर्ली और नॉट. सिंपल. इंटरेस्ट कवरेज, इंटरेस्ट कवरेज रेशियो क्या होता है आप प्लीज देखो. यस, if it is 5 times, it means EBIT is 5 times, EBIT is 5 times the interest. Correct. Falling coverage with rising capex debt is risky. Use sensitivity. अब sensitivity use करो. What if EBIT drops by 30%? Will you still be able to repay your interest or not? वो चेक करना है आपको. ठीक है, क्लियर है इंटरेस्ट कवरेज गाइस आपको. फिक्स्ड चार्ज कवरेज यू आर चेकिंग, आप लीज पेमेंट भी पे कर पा रहे हो कि नहीं, along with interest are you able to pay the lease payment also or not? Correct. Sorted everyone. And the last one, which I don't think we have studied in CFA also, net debt to EBITDA. Net debt to EBITDA. नेट डेट टू EBITDA क्या होता है? सॉरी, नेट डेट टू EBITDA क्या होता है? बहुत सिंपल. नेट डेट मतलब आप लोगे डेट माइनस कैश, जो भी इमीडिएटली कन्वर्टेड है वो निकाल दोगे. तो ये एक्चुअल में आपको कितना डेट है, लेट्स से कंपनी के पास 1,000 करोड़ का डेट है, बट दे हैव 200 करोड़ इन कैश. सो दिस 200 करोड़ दे कैन यूज टुडे इटसेल्फ एंड रीपे द डेट. तो नेट डेट कितना हुआ? 800 करोड़ ही हुआ. यू जस्ट टेक दिस 800 करोड़ इन द न्यूमरेटर and then you see how much EBITDA you are generating. EBITDA क्या होगा? Earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. Correct. You are seeing EBITDA कितना है. Correct. This is very similar to कितना कैश फ्लो होगा. लेट्स से ये हो गया आपका 200 करोड़. तो मतलब क्या होता है? व्हाट डज इट मीन? 800 करोड़ डिवाइड बाय 200 करोड़ क्या होगा? आंसर आएगा 4. सो दिस इज 4 years. इट विल टेक मी 4 years टू रीपे माई नेट डेट. ये जितना कम उतना बेटर है. years of EBITDA needed to repay the debt. Correct. It should be less than 2 to 3 times for many. Stable infra utilities can run higher if contracted cash flows exist. Correct. Perfect. With this, our whole discussion of debt to equity is also clear. Please read पूरा शांति से पढ़ो. Tell me whether this is making sense or not. Done, guys? Any queries? ठीक है ना, मैं chat box देख लेता हूँ. इक्विटी मल्टीप्लायर का 4th and 5th पॉइंट एक्चुअली ना आदित्य, ये एक्चुअली इक्विटी मल्टीप्लायर का 4th and 5th पॉइंट इज नथिंग बट ड्यू पॉइंट एनालिसिस ओनली. यस, इक्विटी मल्टीप्लायर क्या होता है गाइस? लेवरेज रेशियो. हाउ मच लोन हैव यू टेकन. ओके, बिकॉज असेट अपॉन इक्विटी इज द इफेक्ट ऑफ लोन. हायर जितना होगा ये, मतलब यू आर मोर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द लोन्स, यू आर मोर डिपेंडेंट ऑन बोरोइंग्स. तो हायर मल्टीप्लायर मैग्निफाइज बोथ गेन्स एंड लॉसेस. मतलब क्या? बड़ा मल्टीप्लायर है तो it will increase your profits also, it will increase your loss. Extreme situations. Yes, rising multiplier with a flat margin is a red flag for ROE quality. Correct. मतलब margins flat है, but this is increasing. मतलब you're taking more loan, but you're not able to increase your margins. So return on equity is bad. ROE quality is bad. Correct. So ये DuPont related है. तो DuPont तो as you know is a different discussion in itself.
So the margins that you talked about right now should be after tax margins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Net profit margin after tax, net profit margin. Clear, all of you guys? Perfect. Okay. We'll continue for profitability ratio in the next session because I feel वरना ना बहुत क्या हो जाएगा, will be too burdening. So far what are you done with? We are done with this, and this. Profitability ratio में ना I have prepared a checklist exactly properly कि what all things, मतलब मीनिंग, जैसे प्राइजेस ये हो गया, मार्जिन ये हो गया, तो उसका मीनिंग क्या हुआ, डिफरेंट केसेस. सो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी रेशियो वांटेड टू गो स्लो, एंड वैल्यूएशन रेशियो, ऑब्वियसली पी रेशियो क्या होता है, सच थिंग्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट. जैसे प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी रेशियो में आरओआईसी क्या होता है. सो आई थिंक वी वोंट बी एबल टू कंप्लीट today, so we'll do it in the next session, not an issue, and then there'll be few case studies that we'll discuss as well. ठीक है, thank you यार, thanks a lot for attending today's session, means a lot to me, and I hope you guys are finding this helpful. Yes, perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
sir.
thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Sir, can you send the PDF?
Sure, I'll send the PDF. Done.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you guys, thank you, take care.
Thank you, sir.